You've all seen the instruction forms, and they have this symbol. Important. Normally that means don't lose these screws because we packed one less than you need. So there's a warning. This is important. They have the weather beeper thing that comes on the radio to say we have an important announcement to make you aware of. And so in Matthew chapter 26, we're going to see a few things here that are very important. Jesus, what he's about to say and do, he wants them to understand that this is very important. So if you turn to Matthew chapter 26. He puts it all right here very succinctly by telling them the plan that he has. Verse 1, when Jesus had finished all these sayings, this lengthy description in Matthew 24 and 25 about the end times, when he finished all these sayings, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified." Now, they have no idea what in the world Jesus is talking about. They have committed themselves to Jesus as the Messiah, and the Messiah is supposed to get rid of the Roman rule and reestablish David's rule and sit on a throne like David did. That's what he's supposed to do. That's what they were anticipating. That's what they were expecting. And so Jesus now says, no, this is the plan. The plan is in 2 days, we're going to have Passover, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified. Note in verse 1 that he says it to his disciples. This is not for public consumption. As a matter of fact, about half of the recorded ministry of Jesus, which was actually only a few weeks, but a great deal of the New Testament description of Jesus' ministry is with his disciples, preparing them for this. Yes. It's not a public ministry to everyone. This is to them privately, so that they will know that this is about to happen. You know that after 2 days, the Passover. So we know that this is Tuesday, because the Passover will be on Thursday, and he'll be arrested on Thursday night and crucified on Friday. So Jesus is now speaking on Tuesday. So now picture what's going on in these guys' minds. What happens the Sunday before Easter? Palm Sunday, when we celebrate when Jesus came in, and everybody's waving the palm leaves and laying out their cloaks, and they're anticipating that Jesus is about to overthrow the Roman Empire. That everybody in the city is excited, they're thrilled, they've been anticipating this. And so here we are 2 days later, and the disciples are still living in the euphoria of that moment, and Jesus goes, let me tell you what's actually going to happen. I'm going to be dead in a couple of days. This was not really kind of their expectations. As a matter of fact, we know from events happening after that, they still don't get it. Jesus tells them point blank that he is going to be crucified. He tells them this, and he doesn't speak in a parable. No covert language. He just lays it right out there, plain, simple, straightforward. The Passover's coming, and the Son of Man is going to be delivered up. And he doesn't just say to die. He says specifically how it's going to happen, and that is by crucifixion. And yet they still don't believe it. They still don't understand it. They don't really think that it will happen. Even though Jesus says this is the plan. It's amazing in history how people will lay out their plans, and then when they're in a position to do it, people still don't get it. There was a man named Schicklgruber who didn't like his last name. So he went to change it to Heidler, his favorite composer, but the man wasn't the brightest lamp in the room, and he misspelled it, Hitler. He gave birth to a son. Well, his wife gave birth, but you know what I'm saying. They had a boy, and of course they named him Adolf. Adolf was arrested after he tried to overthrow the government in the Beer Hall Putsch. And while he was in prison, he wrote a book called Mein Kampf, My Struggle. In the book, he laid out very clearly exactly what he thought should happen. Exactly what his plan was, not just for Germany, but for Europe and really, by extension, the world. Nobody bothered to read the book. Nobody bothered to think he might actually try to implement this plan until he was in power. And you know what he did? He implemented his plan. If people would have believed him from the get-go, Hitler would have never come to power. We'd have a different world today. And so Jesus says, this is what's going to happen. They don't believe this is the plan. Now, I just want to make sure we understand. Jesus has planned this. He doesn't say this is what's going to happen. I'm going to try to stop it, but not sure. This is a part of God's plan when Jesus says this is what we're going to do. So in order for Jesus to be delivered up to be crucified, we have to have some people who are participants in this plan, who are part of this. So notice what happens in verse 3. Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and plotted together in order to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people. Now, we have several groups of people here. We have the chief priests. These are the leading priests who are serving in the temple. We have the elders of the people. They're supposed to be the wise people. In theory, life experience makes you wiser. In practice, that is true for some, but not for all. Yes. And so, oftentimes in the Bible, the wise are those who have experience, those who have lived it. And oftentimes, if we want advice, we go to somebody who's been through it. How did you handle this situation? So those were the elders. So we have the chief priests and the elders. They've gathered together at the pastor's house, which is called a palace. So they gather at the palace of Caiaphas, the high priest. Now, if you have a study Bible, you probably got a lot of notes in the bottom. Let me remind you, the notes are there to help. They are not Bible. Don't ever come to me and say, well, my Bible says. No, your Bible says the exact same thing mine does. The footnotes that were added by somebody to help us, and I own several study Bibles, and the footnotes can be very helpful. But you got a whole lot of footnotes here about Caiaphas is not actually the active high priest at this point, and all kinds of other stuff. So basically, here's the way it is. If you've ever served as high priest, they always call you high priest. Just like in the United States, if you've ever been the president, they always call you Mr. President, even long after you're no longer serving as president. So it's a title that you're stuck with for life. And so they're going to take it to the high priest, go to his palace. What are they going to plot together? So verse 4, they plotted together in order to arrest Jesus. But notice how they're going to do it. By stealth. In other words, they can't be honest because they're afraid of what people might think. So they're going to have to do it in an underhanded manner. And they want to kill him. They want to eliminate him because they see Jesus as a threat to their position and to their power. But they said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people. Now, the feast is the feast of unleavened bread. So you have Passover, that's a day. Then we have 7 days of unleavened bread. So they say, we don't want to wait 8 days to off this guy. We got to figure out how to do it quickly. Passover's coming on Thursday, so it's Tuesday, so we got to figure out how to take care of this within the next couple of days. And so these people get together. Now, there's something that should be shocking when we read this. These are good people. I mean, these are the elders, these are the wise people. This is a man who served as a high priest. These are people who are leading priests who serve in the temple. These are people who represent God, who claim to follow the law of God, who claim to believe in God. But what are they doing? At this moment, they're looking to kill a guy. Human nature has not changed. When there's rioting, there's looting. And who does the looting? Sometimes it's criminals, but a lot of times it's otherwise good people. Otherwise law-abiding citizens. So what we see here are not crooks. These are good people. But good people, without the power of God in their life, do bad things. And so they are plotting together. So good people are plotting to kill Jesus by stealth. And they want to get it done quickly because they don't want to have to face the wrath of the people. So, verse 6. We're going to see Jesus. Now, someone's going to prepare him for his death. Now, when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment. She poured it on his head as he reclined at table. And when the disciples saw it, they were indignant, saying, "Why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Now, she's brought in a flask. It has a long, skinny neck, and because if it's very expensive, you don't want to oops. So by having a skinny neck, only a drop at a time can come out. You'll understand. If you don't understand this, just go home and take any soft drink and turn it up, and it goes gurgle, gurgle. It doesn't all just rush out. If you want all to rush out, cut the top off. Then turn it all down. So it's to slow down the flow. So we have this alabaster flask that she brings in, very expensive ointment, and she pours it all over his head, meaning she broke the lid off and just pours the whole thing all over Jesus. Now, how much was it worth? Well, in Mark's account, he tells us that it's about 1 year's salary. So, in modern terms, depending on where you live, somewhere between $35,000 and $65,000. Now, I don't know about you, I've never bought cologne that costs that much. Matter of fact, sometimes I buy it in a multi-pack. It ain't even close to that. And so this was a very, 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 very expensive ointment that she has come in and that she has put all over the head of Jesus. Now, these people should already know there's something unusual here, because Jesus is at the house of a leper. Probably what we have is not a man who is currently a leper, because that would have violated the law to be in his house. He would have not been allowed to be in his house, but have to stay outside the city. So it's someone who has been healed by Jesus. So they're in the house of someone who is a demonstration of the power of God. And so they should already know we're in an unusual circumstance. And now this woman comes and pours this all over him. But verse 8, the disciples don't get it. They go, man, what a waste. We instead could have sold it. And I mean, let's think about it. Let's just take the number 50,000, because that's an easy number to deal with. Let's suppose it's about $50,000. Do you know how many people we could minister to with $50,000? How many folks we could feed and clothe? How many people we could help with bills? How many people we could help to get a job and get trained? I mean, $50,000 is a lot of money. Okay, apparently y'all make a whole lot more than that. You think it's pocket change. So when we're done, if you just share a little bit of it with me. And they're like, man, we could have done a lot of ministry with this much money. Now, y'all do realize they show their ignorance here, right? These are the same disciples who watched Jesus take a couple of sardines and some biscuits and feed thousands of people. Jesus is never without resources, because he's Jesus. And so they should have known, but they said, man, what a waste. And I want you to notice the disciples, not just Judas. Could have sold it and given to the poor. Now, in verse 10, when Jesus says, she's done a beautiful thing for me, we get that part. But now he's going to address their issue. He says, because you always have the poor with me, but you will not always have me. Jesus is not saying, when he said, well, we always got poor people, so we won't need to do anything. What Jesus is saying is, until he comes back again, there's always going to be opportunity for ministry. We're never going to run out of opportunities to minister to people. There's never going to be a time when there are people who are not hurting. There's never going to be a time when there are not people who are in need. There's never going to be a time when there are not people that we can minister to, both physically and spiritually. And so Jesus is not saying to ignore them because we always have them, but he's saying that, this is a one-time kind of event, and it's a beautiful thing, which I'm going to come back to in a minute. So verse 12, he says, she understands. In pouring this ointment on me, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Now, we don't oil people down before we bury them anymore. But in that day, they stuck them in a hole in the ground, usually like in a cave, and the bodies would naturally decompose. Now, decomposing bodies, whether human or otherwise, don't exactly put off a pleasant aroma. So what they would do was they can't stop the aroma, so they would cover the aroma. So they would usually sort of mummify the body, put it in strips of cloth called swaddling cloths, wrap it in cloth that had been dipped in some kind of spices or anything that would help to cover the smell. Okay, so think of it this way. 13-year-old boy that says, I don't need to take a shower, and just shoots himself with some cologne. That's what we have here. That's why they would handle the bodies. And so he says that she has done this to prepare me. This is what you would do before you would bury someone. And everywhere that the message of Jesus proclaimed, what she has done is also going to be told about her. Now, I want to go back. Jesus says she's done a beautiful thing. I'm going to be honest with you. This is one of the biggest struggles I have had for my whole life, particularly as a pastor. Personally, I'd be okay meeting on concrete floors. Anybody that does any kind of decorating and has ever talked to me about it very long knows I have zero skills in this department. Not only have zero skills, I couldn't care. It always cracks me when somebody decorates something, go, hey, think it looks? And I go, great. I'm thinking I really have no earthly idea at all. I realize that's That's me. And so I've just always questioned, what is the balance between spending money to have a place of worship that is nice because it reflects the beauty and the glory of God? Because we think heaven's going to be decorated pretty nicely. Yep. Versus spending money to minister to people's needs. I am naturally just sort of inclined to the don't decorate, spend it to minister to people. And some of you are with me. Yeah. Others of you are, but we want it to look good because God has just wired you differently. There's been a recognition for me for many years that I have to understand that both are okay. Jesus did not agree with them, should have spent it on the poor. Jesus said what she's done is a beautiful thing. So I'm just telling you, personally, it's just always been it still is kind of an ongoing struggle. Like, how much do we want to spend on making it nice because it reflects the beauty and the glory of God versus spending it to people who are suffering and in need? And if I ever actually get that balance, then my life will be over. So here's what I'm trying to say to you. Don't look down on people who say, well, we should spend the money because we want to put this decoration, make this thing look nice, as though somehow they don't care about people. That is not true. To make God's house look good, to make God's things look good, is actually biblical. But I also want to say to those of you who it is important to you that it look good, to recognize there are also people in need. Like, we're not competing with one another. We need to balance one another. We don't have to argue and fight with one another about where it goes. We need to be able to have a conversation and say, you know what? There is a balance somewhere in the middle. And I'm going to say it again. I don't know where that balance is. Some of you think, yes, we've always known he was unbalanced. So what Jesus says here, I just want you to see, he doesn't put her down for what she has done, which, let's be honest, the disciples do have a legitimate gripe, do they not? This money could have been spent, could have been sold and spent to me. But Jesus says, look, there are times when we need to spend to show off the beauty and the glory of God. And there are times when we need to spend to minister to people. And so we need to kind of somehow figure out how to make both of those happen without condemning one another as being somehow unspiritual. Okay? It's called grace. Yes. And we extend it to each other. And so Jesus here in this situation leans on the beauty side. What she's done is a beautiful thing. So then in verse 14, we come to one of the most tragic events ever. But in order for God's plan to happen, there are pawns, there are people that are a part of the plan, even when they don't realize it. Then one of the 12, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, what will you give me if I deliver him over to you? And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. And from that moment, he sought an opportunity to betray him. Now, the phrase, one of the 12, is an interesting phrase. It's only used one other time of anybody outside of Judas. And it's when Thomas, one of the 12, doubted that Jesus had risen from the dead. Other than that, the phrase one of the 12 is only used of Judas Iscariot, meaning he was one of them, but he was not one of them. He's not a disciple, he's just one of the 12. He's not an apostle, he's one of the 12. He's not committed to Jesus, he's one of the 12. So let me put it in a modern terminology. They're not really a believer, but they're a church member. Name on the roll, but not on the real roll. The one that counts. And so Judas is one of the 12. Now, it's significant. They don't search him out. He searches them out. He goes to the chief priests. He doesn't like this whole I'm going to die thing. He's wanting something else. So he said, what will you give me if I deliver him over to you? They paid him 30 pieces of silver. Now, why 30 pieces of silver? Well, two reasons. One's predicted in the Old Testament. But the reason it's predicted is because 30 pieces of silver was the entry-level price for the lowest level of slave. So if we have a slave who is skilled, they were more valuable. So Judas essentially sells Jesus for the lowest price that they would sell a human being for. 30 pieces. That's how little he thought of Jesus. They sold him for the price of a common slave. And from that moment on, he is seeking an opportunity to betray him. Now watch this. Okay? The chief priest thinks Judas is their pawn. Satan thinks he's his pawn, but God knows he's his pawn to accomplish his purpose of the crucifixion. Now, I want you to note, why is it here? Why is the text arranged this way? Well, watch what we have. We have a lady, and what does she spend on Jesus? 50 grand. We have Judas, and what does he sell Jesus for? 30 pieces of silver. In other words, there's a stark contrast between the value that she has placed on Jesus and that Judas has placed on Jesus. Yeah. Judas has placed little value. She has placed extreme value on him. It's really kind of humorous if you look at the history of all the shows that Jerry and I watch, and hers are like these reality shows and news shows and Hallmark movies. And then mixed in, you'll see these other shows. Those have to be Paul, like Weaponology, Great Battles of World War II. That's and Counting Cars. And one of the ones that I like to watch is Pawn Stars, because it's fascinating. It's kind of the history behind it on. And I realized that it's all really for real. None of it's set up. But anyway, a few years ago, a lady walked into the gold and silver pawn shop in Las Vegas. And she wanted to sell a brooch. How much would you like to sell it for? $2,000. In a moment of honesty, Rick Harrison looked at her and said, we need to have this checked out, because I don't think it's worth $2,000. They had it checked. It was confirmed. It was a rare Fabergé Black Widow brooch. He eventually negotiated a price of $14,000. And of course, if you own the pawn shop, that means this value is about $30,000 to $40,000. She didn't think it was worth a lot, but it was worth a ton. Today, there are people who don't think Jesus is worth much. But at First Baptist Chandler, we believe he is of infinite value. We recognize his value. Judas does not. And so he is going to be a part of this whole portrait that God is painting here. So, beginning in verse 17, we now come to the Passover, which Jesus is going to convert. Now, on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.' And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he reclined at table with the 12. And as they were eating, he said, 'Truly I say to you, one of you will betray me.' And they were very sorrowful and began to say to him one after another, 'Is it I, Lord?' He answered, 'He who has dipped his hand in the dish with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born.' Judas, who would betray him, answered, 'Is it I, Rabbi?'" Always playing the part. He said to him, "You have said so." So they've come now to celebrate Passover. What is Passover? Passover is to celebrate the greatest event of the Old Testament. God's delivering his people by Charlton Heston. Leading them out by Moses from the hand of the Egyptians. Their great deliverance from bondage to Egypt. But not just leaving Egypt, but also coming into the land that God had promised for them. And so every year at Passover they would celebrate that the final of the 10 plagues was Passover, Pesach. And it's an interesting term. It means to limp. Here is why. As the death angel came into Egypt and walked through the land, everywhere that the angel's foot came down, the oldest would die. But on a house that had the blood over the doorpost, the death angel would limp over that house, and all would be safe. It's a great picture. And so they've gathered to celebrate the Passover. And at Passover, they would have unleavened bread and wine as a part of their memorial of the deliverance that God has given them from Egypt. So Jesus is now going to take that celebration and infuse it with more important meaning. Verse 26, "Now as they were eating, Jesus took bread, and after blessing it, broke it, and gave it to the disciples and said, 'Take, eat, this is my body.' And he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, 'Drink of it, all of you. For this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink again of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. So in other words, Jesus has taken Passover to celebrate the greatest event of the Old Testament, their deliverance from Egypt. And He's now given it a more significant and more important meaning because it's going to be a remembrance of the most significant and important event of the New Testament, the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And so when we observe the Lord's Supper, we remember the price that was paid. Jesus' body nailed to the cross and pouring out His blood so He might seal us forever in covenant with God so that someday we will celebrate it one last time at the final marriage supper of the Lamb. And so Jesus takes this and gives it all kinds. Jesus says, look, the Passover is important, but I'm going to make it more important because it is now going to celebrate who I am. So notice what we've done. Jesus starts by telling them what the plan is. Then we see all the participants and all this going into play. And now Jesus comes at the end of this passage to tell us about the picture so that we will remember that the crucifixion of Jesus was not an accident. No. It was and forever will be a part of the eternal and everlasting plan of God. Why is this so important? This is so important because Jesus wants us to never forget the price that was paid so that you and I can be forgiven. He wants us to never forget the glory of who He is. That's why He said what she has done is a beautiful thing. It is done to signify how important Jesus Christ is. When we gather on Sundays, there's a lot of stuff that we do, but the most important thing that we do is celebrate what Jesus Christ has done. Yes. The most important thing we do is remember His death and resurrection. I made a commitment. Wow, it's been almost 35 years, Brother Ken. I've been preaching a long time. 35 years ago, I made a commitment that there would never be a Sunday that I would preach that somewhere in the message, somewhere on Sunday morning, I would not tell people that Jesus died for our sins on the cross and that He rose again the third day, because I do not believe it is a sermon that is faithful to God's Word if it does not celebrate what Jesus Christ has done, if it does not remind us of who He is and what He has done for us. And so the focus, what is so important to us, is what Jesus has done. What Jesus has given, His body and His blood for our sin. When we gather in a world that's in a mess, we never, ever, ever forget the most important thing is Jesus. Family is important. Marriage is important. Being good people is important. Being productive part of society is important. Being wise with our money is important. Being discipled and discipling is important. But the most important thing is to remember who Jesus is and what He has done for us. Yes. And that it is the eternal plan of God. Not a response, a reaction. It is something that God intended from before the foundation of the world. And Jesus came and He fulfilled that plan exactly the way God wanted it.